Having lived in 7 different houses since we got married, we lived in Victorian semis and almost brand new houses, we sort of knew what we liked and didn't like, and came to the conclusion that to get something that would satisfy what we were looking for, really, we should build our own house. And that sounds easy, but then of course there's the challenge of finding somewhere to actually build it. By the December of that year, 2016, we'd identified a property here in this village. We then looked at the property and said, do we renovate it and extend it, or do we build new? And when we looked at the amount of work we'd have to do to make it somewhere that wasn't drafty and cold and had rooms the size that we wanted, we decided to knock it down and start again. And that also gave us the option of building a passive house, a multi-comfort house.
When we met the client at the beginning of the project, the top of their agenda really was creating a multi-comfort home. A home that was both high energy performance, but also a home which looked out for their well-being, the quality of daylight, acoustics, air quality, and that's really where we started, an agenda for that type of building.
I think the key words for our requirement from the house, and we've used it many times, is height and light, and to give us some comfort going forward that we wouldn't have ever increasing energy bills.
Challenge for architects generally on new house builds, when there's an agenda for items which are not very usual in the market, is that there's not much knowledge out there, not many example projects around the UK. So we were creating details for the first time around the windows, around the wall thickness, around the air tightness, which was a challenge. And finding the right way to technically detail that, is something that we had to work really hard at.
It took nearly a year to firm up the design. Some of that time had been spent balancing the requirements of passive house and multi-comfort house. That then went off to planning. That was a flat-roofed building, and that just didn't fly. The planners decided that just didn't fit in the environment that we were in. So in essence what we did was rehash the design, so effectively the same house but with a sloping roof on it. It was 11 months, almost to the day, from digging foundations to moving in. I was on site all the way through the process, project managing, and we opted for that route because trying to get a builder who would take on the risk of passive house design was possible, but there was also a high cost to it as well. The guys who we employed were really interested in what we were doing. I think for them it was nice to be working on something that was a bit different. They'd never built cavities 300mm wide. They'd never put so much insulation in a building. It was interesting, even the things that were a bit fiddly, some of the air tightness membranes that we had to put in as we were building, fixing them in the middle of winter wasn't always easy. Noise is one of the big issues that we should think about. As somebody said to me, you can't turn your ears off. The noise is always there, so being able to control it is great. One of the things that really struck us about a week and a half after we moved in was we had a really windy day, and with the windows closed you sort of looked out and you saw the trees really blowing about, and in a normal house you would expect to hear that, and you didn't. We didn't hear anything. And because we've taken account of internal noise with things like the ceilings here have fill in the cavity in the floor space, and then we've got resilient bar, then we've got 2 layers of sound block on the ceiling here. We've tried to do as much as we can to make sure that we don't hear noise from upstairs down here or vice versa. And upstairs, where we've put partitions in, we've used systems that are considerably higher than building regulations would require, so you don't hear people in other bedrooms moving around at night, or somebody getting up in the morning and having a shower waking you up. Part of the multi-comfort philosophy is air quality. You don't particularly notice good air quality, but you notice poor air. So you notice smells and you notice if it's stuffy in a building. And I think what we've noticed even in the 4 weeks that we've been here is things like where we've treated the oak staircase with a stain, with a varnish. The smell from that dissipated very quickly. And I think that's a combination of the MVHR systems circulating the air, extracting and bringing fresh air in, but also it will be the pure finish plaster locking out the organic compounds that would be in the air. You never feel stuffy because the air is always being cycled and moved around, although it's not strong enough in terms of the motion to actually feel it, that you don't have a draft. So those were things that were important to us, partly as a result of living in very new houses, mass-built houses, where the builders tend to build to regulation rather than anything more than that.